Welcome back to the Daily Deer. If you're listening to this, it's Saturday, January 4th. You're well on your way into the new year. Today's episode, I'm very excited to get into as I sit in the studio and look at this amazing drawing that Derek drew of Fred Bear. Let's get into the deer woods. Today's episode is all about Fred Bear's legacy. A quote from Fred Bear. The history of the bow and arrow is the history of mankind. Now, Fred Bear believed hunting wasn't just about taking game, deer, trophies, etc. It was about understanding our place in nature. As we enter into January, let his legacy inspire you to reflect on what the hunt means to you. I want to touch on what he said about it's about understanding our place in nature. If you follow the OKS Hunter or you know me at any level, you know that I love reading about and following Stoic philosophy. And the Stoics had said a lot of different things about nature, and it like philosophy requires what is in our nature, and all of these different things. Zeno, I think the founder of Stoicism, was saying, nature is defined by the way things work, and the wisdom as acting in accordance with natural laws. This bridge between what Fred Bear was saying and what the Stoics are saying, there's no direct bridge here. I'm kind of making one a little bit. Obviously, the nature of Fred Bear is talking about is literally being in nature, not of human nature. Although when the Stoics talk about the laws of nature, there is some tie back to nature itself, and of course, nature is talked about plenty throughout history, obviously. But the way that I understand it, human nature refers to the condition of the human who is expressing the very best in his or her development. That is their ultimate best self. They're growing, they're changing in an effort to reach the ultimate goal for a human being. I don't know a better way to achieve that than by being in nature. And, at least for me, most of the time I spend in nature isn't on hikes, although I do scout and I do go on hikes with my family and my kids. But the deepest connection I experience in nature is almost typically always when I'm hunting. When I'm hunting is when I get the best version of nature, in my opinion, and the best version of myself emerges. I think being in nature is critically important. So Fred Bear's message about that, and he's also been quoted saying, like, immerse yourself in the whole experience and the outdoor experience. Hunting is definitely immersion because it takes you from, anything you do is just a greener hiker type person. I know we often as hunters get combated and ask the question, well, why do you have to go out and kill something? Can't you just enjoy nature for nature's sake? Absolutely, you certainly can. And killing is such a like romantic thing that occurs in nature. When you take the life of their animal, that is the deepest connection you can have with that animal. You take its life and you have a much deeper respect for that animal than if you were to just observe it. That's my take on it, because then you have to gut that animal, you have to drag that animal, quarter it out, carry it out, pack it out, whatever it is you're doing, and then you butcher it up, and then you cook it and you eat it. And if you follow any of the other shows on the the OKS Podcast Network, the OKS Cook talks about a word that I'd never heard before I met those guys, commensality, not common senseality, commensality, which is this act of being together and enjoying each other's company over the dinner table, over a meal. And so when you have that meal of the animal you took, especially with those you did hunt with in some capacity, or even if the people that you didn't hunt with, you're sharing this meal, you're sharing that experience. It just goes so much further than if you were to just simply be in nature without hunting. So, I think the reflection for today's episode is, what did you learn from the woods this past season? The woods teaches us so much, especially the deer woods. I've learned a lot about myself. I hit some trial and tribulation, had some failure. Wasn't my best moment as a deer hunter, but that caused for deep, deep reflection, tons of learning, lots to take away from that. And, we're also talking about, like, take a moment to write some of the stuff down. I'm doing a daily journal every day, and writing these things down, it's not something that I'm super comfortable with. Like, I'm getting used to this concept of journaling, but I know a lot of hunters do keep a journal for hunting. sake, where they'll, journal out the weather, the wind, the moon, all that different stuff, the temperature, the sightings of deer, so forth. I think those are great habits to get into. It's really good for the historical studying of like why did the deer show up that day if you can identify patterns. So that's kind of cool. Journaling in general is great, but if you write some of these things down, it kind of like will sear into your mind a little bit deeper. And the takeaway is, hunting connects us to the wild and to ourselves. Carry that connection into the new year with you. So, with that, our daily deer episode number 4 for January 4th, take the connections and the lessons that you had from 2024 in the deer woods, write some of those things down and bring them with you into 2025 in a way that's meaningful and kind of honor Fred Bear's legacy, if you will. Hope you've enjoyed our little trek into the deer woods today.